Excuse me. Good evening, everyone. Lifestyle champions, um, as I always love to call us. So I want to welcome us to our LCI webinar for the month of December. Actually, the last quarterly webinar for the year, and I'm so excited to see everyone in the room. I believe we've had a wonderful day, had a wonderful month, and a wonderful 2025. And for those of us who are joining for the first time, this is Lifestyle Champions International Foundation. And here we are committed to raising a group of a community of individuals who are passionate about making healthy choices every day. I believe that's why you're here, because you're interested in making the healthy choice as much as possible as a way of life and in a very sustainable way. So there's so much to talk about tonight. And I know that several people will be joining us along the line. We have a remarkable person here who is going to be facilitating this discussion. And I'm going to be introducing, excuse me, I'm going to be introducing her shortly. So let me just share my screen so that you see the summary. Trying to admit people. Okay, please confirm that you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see it.
All right, so thank you. I'm going to introduce our speaker. We're going to be addressing a very important topic tonight, and I'm sure that's why we've all joined this webinar. We're going to be talking about food as medicine, and specifically, we're going to be looking at the role that food has to play in reducing the burden of cancers. And I'm sure many of us have heard a lot of strange things, about people who are even younger than 40, developing one cancer or the other. There are different types of cancers: breast cancer, colon cancer, prostate cancer, lung cancer, oral cancer that has to do with the mouth, liver cancer. There's so many cancers. In fact, recently we lost someone dear to a cancer involving the floor of the mouth. So when you hear these things, you wonder, what are we doing? Is there something that we are not doing quite right? Is there some behavior that we need to change? And of course, for those of us who have been attending our webinars, we made it clear that there is sufficient evidence to show that our behaviors drive many of the chronic diseases that we see. And, this includes hypertension, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and several cancers. And so this morning or this evening or afternoon, depending on wherever you are, I want to give to you Dr. Ijoma Dozie, who is a consultant family physician. She's a board certified lifestyle medicine physician. She's a fellow of the Medical College of Family Medicine. That's the National Postgraduate Medical College of Nigeria. She holds an MBBS from the University of Jos and also a lifestyle medicine diploma from the International Board of Lifestyle Medicine. She's an MBA Essentials. She holds an MBA Essentials certification from the London School of Economics and Political Science. She's also an executive master in business administration from the Quantic School of Business and Technology. And she also has a master in public health and a postgraduate diploma in education. That's in view. As a dynamic public speaker, Dr. Dozie has been invited to deliver talks at various prestigious events, both nationally and internationally. She has anchored scientific literature and authored, sorry, pardon me. She has authored scientific literature and contributed to clinical research and publications. I'll skip it in one paragraph. She's the founder of the Lifestyle Impact Foundation, which is responsible for educating and training the populace on how to live healthy lives. And she offers medical and lifestyle medicine consultations and clinical services online via her virtual clinic. She works currently as a consultant family and lifestyle medicine physician at the Federal Teaching Hospital in Owerri, Imo State, and she's the Education Secretary of the Society of Lifestyle Medicine of Nigeria. Dr. Dozie is married with children to a High Chief Emeka Dozie, an ex-banker and renowned entrepreneur. So this is just a brief summary or profile of our speaker tonight. She's a very close friend and colleague, and we serve together in the Society of Lifestyle Medicine of Nigeria. So I want to give towards Dr. Ijoma Dozie. You're welcome. Let me stop sharing so that you can take over. You're highly welcome. Thank you for honoring our invitation tonight. So over to you, Dr. Dozie.
Thank you so much, Dr. Makinde. Good to be here. Let me share my screen. And thank you for your kind words and introduction. It's really exciting. Oh.
Okay, we can see your screen now.
Our moms will.
All right.
But I think you can put it on. Okay, yes, it's on slideshow, so you can go right ahead.
Okay, so this is the role of food as medicine in reducing cancer burden. And so we'll talk about the important role that food plays in reducing cancer burden. And I'll try to go through, there's so much information on this. And so let us start. To cover a lot of these things, so it's about lifestyle, because every time I give a talk, I want people to know that lifestyle medicine isn't only about diet. There are 6 pillars. And so lifestyle physicians, we are not dietitians. We actually use the 6 pillars to do what we do. And we'll now give the evidence and round up. So, introduction. So up to 30 to 40 cancers are preventable. A lot of people don't even know that cancers are preventable. That's the first part. But we can see here that up to 30 to 40% of them are preventable. And they are mundane things like liver cancer that is so common in our environment, things like hepatitis B and C screens, checking your groundnuts. You know, we have a lot of screens that we do for things like breast cancers, for prostate cancers. You know, prostate cancer is such a slow growing cancer. Colonoscopy that they can do, and that gives them safety for 7 to 10 years. And so there are so many other cancers like that that are preventable, 30 to 40% of them. And that's why we tell people to get their annual cancer screens and all of that. And lifestyle impacts every phase, the prevention, the treatment tolerance. So your ability to actually absorb or even, do well on chemo, not to be too ill, survival rates, recurrence rate. So you're in remission. What are the chances of you coming out of remission and all of that? All these things are, affected. Lifestyle has an impact on these outcomes, even the end of life comfort. So what patients do daily matters more than what happens once in the chemo suite. Okay. Now, it is not just genetic. So, we always say, okay, maybe you have a first degree relative that had breast cancer, that kind of thing. Yes, I mean, there's that aspect of it, but there's the metabolic aspect of it. There's the inflammatory aspect and the environmental aspect as well. And I've also talked about some of these things here. Now, the topic today is food as medicine. So what do we mean when we say food as medicine? So we advocate for using whole food and plant-based diets, right? And we're saying that we advocate for this because it is evidence-based. And there's evidence to show that it can prevent cancer, slow the progression, reduce recurrence, improve tolerance to treatment, enhance quality of life and survivorship. And it's not abracadabra. There's nothing I'm saying here that is magic. You just require discipline. You require to be consistent. And that consistency is what people cannot tolerate, because people just want to swallow something and be done with it. Well, now that the discipline with eating in a particular way and all those kinds of things can just be a lot. We're preparing for our end of year party in the department. And so they asked the residents, while we were talking about it, they talked about the menu. And so one of the residents says, I hope the food will be lifestyle compliant. And then some of the residents said, no, we don't want lifestyle compliant. That kind of thing. So, it's a mindset thing. So you feel, it's difficult to do the whole lifestyle thing. Oh, she's going to come and start telling us to eat veggies and all of those things. And, we just want to eat our meat. We want to splurge on our alcohol. We want to do all of that. Eat our deep fried food and eat our small chops. They literally threatened the chief reg to say, if you don't give us small chops, there's going to be a problem in this department. It was as serious as that, So these people don't want to do some of these things, but there's evidence to show that it actually works. And there's a reason why some of these things should happen. And what are some of the things that it can help? Some of the specific cancers: colorectal cancer, breast cancer, especially post-menopausal women, prostate cancers, and gastric cancers. These ones are actually directly linked with diet. The other ones can have an adjunct supportive effect, that kind of thing. Once your quality of life is good, generally, So the key targets, like I have said, they will reduce inflammation, improve insulin sensitivity. We're going to talk about them. I will explain how. Support the immunity, protect organs from toxicity, and maintain strength and independence. And this becomes very good, being able to tolerate the chemo, for instance, the side effects, then end of life, the quality of life as you're living, the lifestyle or the diet would help. And so I like this slide because we're seeing our groundnuts. And I had a disagreement, I call it a disagreement, where somebody challenged me on one of the platforms I belong to, a platform of consultants. And I had given this lecture or shown this slide as one of my presentations. And the person, and I now, following the So Long conference, I had now showed a picture of us eating groundnuts and garden eggs at the conference instead of serving small chops. That was like our tea break and everything. And so the person was like, oh, I thought you said groundnuts were not good and groundnuts were associated with cancers. So why are you guys in lifestyle now eating groundnuts and you're confusing us? I'm like, okay, That was not exactly what I said. What I said, and I want to say it again, is your groundnuts have a lot of aflatoxins, and they are fungi that are associated with causing cancer of the liver, okay? Aspergillus mycotoxins. So you find them in groundnuts, in maize, in sorghum, rice, millets, tree nuts, and all of that. And so they have been linked with liver cancer. And we know that we see a lot of those liver cancers in our environment. And so what I'm saying is look at the groundnuts before you eat it. Look at it. And then if by any chance you eat one and it tastes off, please spit it out. You don't have to swallow it. You're not a dustbin. Swallow it out, because the more of these things you ingest, the higher your chances. That was exactly what I was saying. And for those that are into farming, agriculture, and all of that, you also want to have good ways of storing and preserving these grains so that they are not moldy and contaminated for us to eat. Now, we want the clinicians. I know this place, we don't only have clinicians here, but we want them to model healthy habits. And I think it's not just for the clinicians, everybody, because everybody can be a lifestyle champion. My husband, that is a lifestyle champion, is not a physician, but he goes around, he preaches talks about lifestyle medicine everywhere he goes. And of course, I always tell people that he's been in remission for 5 years from his diabetes using only lifestyle interventions. He's been able to stay in remission for 5 years without medications. So it is doable, and he is not a doctor, right? So I said I was going to talk a little bit about lifestyle medicine before we go into the nitty-gritty of why we're here today. And for those that do not know, lifestyle medicine is a medical specialty that uses evidence-based lifestyle therapeutic interventions as a primary modality. Evidence-based, that means anything that is not evidence-based. There is no research, there's no reproducible evidence about it. It hasn't helped people maybe in Nigeria, in Ghana, in America, in Australia, all of that. It is not lifestyle medicine. There's data, it's documented, you can reference it and all of that. That is lifestyle medicine. So it's not a fad, it's not a habit, it's not a way of, well, it's a way of life, but what I mean, primarily it is evidence-based. It is using those therapeutic interventions, and it is delivered by clinicians trained and certified in this specialty. And the goal is to prevent, to treat, and in often cases, reverse chronic disease. And I've given you the example of my husband that was able to reverse his type 2 diabetes. Now, the 6 pillars of primary therapeutic interventions, we talk about diet and nutrition, which is the pillar we are addressing today, prioritizing whole food, plant predominant eating diet. And we have a mnemonic for it, which is our dreams, where D is diet and nutrition, R is relationships, which is the S you see at the bottom there that says social connections, fostering supportive, positive relationships. So we say positive social connections or positive relationships, right? Then E is exercise and physical activity, and we want it to be regular, and we want it to be appropriate, because it needs to be appropriate for age, appropriate for disease conditions, and all of those kinds of things. And then we talk about, we've done D, R, E, A. A is avoidance of harmful substances, particularly tobacco, alcohol, illicit drugs. Then M is mental wellness and stress management, incorporating relaxation and coping strategies. So that's where stress management, I'm using the mnemonic. That's why it's not aligning with that. And then S is sleep. And we say restorative sleep, because we want you to focus on the quality and quantity of sleep. Okay, so there are different aspects of this, but we're going to just go into nutrition. And commonly, one of the things we talk about, we have a lot of evidence for, because it has been grouped as a group 1B carcinogen, is our red meat, okay? And by the time the processed meat is group 1, and the red meat is a group 2A. So for processed meat, it's a no-no, and it's implicated in colorectal cancers, okay? Now, we also, this is just an overview, higher fibers, whole grains will lower colorectal cancer risk. And then we're talking about, we want energy dense, we want you to avoid energy dense, ultra processed patterns, because they will lead to weight gain and multiple cancers. And of course, we see a lot of fiber in fruits, vegetables, legumes, nuts, and they are associated with lower risk of the disease. And I always like to show this slide that shows our world famous suya on the fire, being met with the char. And we know that our beloved suya would always have all that oil on it. They drizzle the fatty oil on it, and it's, it blombays, you see all the fire, the flames, and it's just absolutely amazing. And the fatter, the better. By the time you're eating the tozo, that's absolutely amazing. And then people now say, oh, I ate it with onions. I put a lot of onions. So that's going to counteract. And that's why I showed you a beautiful picture here that has all the veggies, because, the veggies are there after all. And then you're eating all that suya that has been charred and has had all that oil poured on it and all of that. And it's the extremely fatty part of the cow that was used to make it. And it's absolutely delicious, isn't it? Right. So now let's go into it. We've described the picture, so let's get into it. Now, it is processed, okay? And we have heard that processed meat is a grade 1 or a group 1 carcinogen, and it is strongly linked to colorectal cancer. This is according to the International Agency for Research on Cancer, okay? So it's definite, they are not speculating. And some of the things that the main culprits are the nitrous compounds, and you get them from the added nitrites and nitrites during processing. So they are potent mutagens. Then the heterocyclic amines, okay, they are produced when meat is cooked at very high temperatures, like frying, grilling, and barbecuing. So the suya is being barbecued, right? So that happens as well. Then we have the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. They are produced from the smoke and char during barbecuing. So there's the high heat, there's the smoke and char that are formed, and then there's the whole entire processing process. Then there's the heme ion. It's present in the red meat. So the meat from the cow is red meat. It has the heme ion, right? And it is catalyzed to form reactive oxygen species, which you don't want to have that, right? Because they damage the cells of the body and all of that. Okay. Now, when you have all of these things, you've ingested them, I've listed all of them here. You've ingested your, your nitrous compounds, your heterocyclic amines, your polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. They are all like plentiful based on all the things you've been eating, right? They bind to the DNA in the colon and they form DNA adducts. These adducts cause mutations in key genes, and this is what initiates the tumor forming process. So the cancers start to form. Now, when another step is when there is oxidative stress and inflammation. So the heme ion, I've talked about it. Heme is like from hemoglobin, that thing that makes it red. So you don't have that in white meat. And that's why we commonly say white meat is healthier than red meat. It's important I add that. So this heme ion is missing in white meat. Your chicken, your fish, and all of that, they are white, they don't have the heme. But the red meat commonly has it. And all the cow, the goat meat, all of them have that heme ion in them, right? And I've explained the process of how they are being catabolized and all of that to form reactive oxygen species. Remember, I said that, okay? So it will increase reactive oxygen species that are being formed, and they damage your DNA. They will damage lipids, they will damage proteins, okay? And this leads to inflammation. And I'm sure if every single lay person knows that cancer abhors inflammation, right? And they're always talking about acidic state, alkaline state, blah, blah, inflammation, all of those things. We don't want you to be in inflammatory state. If somebody has, because we're talking about food as medicine, cancer burden, you don't want that to be part of your system. If there's any cancer or there's a risk of cancer or there's a family history of cancer, that kind of thing. So this increases cytokines that encourage abnormal cell growth. So are you seeing how it's forming? So because of these things, constant exposure to them, to reactive oxygen species, to the red meat, there's abnormal cancer growth starting to happen. Now, the other one are the gut microbiomes, the changes. Okay, so processed meat alters the gut microbiota. So there are little microorganisms inside the gut, your GIT, your colon, your intestines, your large intestine. And so this increases bile acid metabolism into secondary bile acids like the deoxycholic acid. So they promote epithelial proliferation and DNA mutations. So because the processed meat is going to alter it, because you want them to be diverse, you want them to do what they're supposed to do, you want their numbers to be there, the colony, to just essentially function the way they're supposed to function. Also, the processed meat is going to change the way they function, it's going to bring about oxidative stress, it's going to bring about DNA damage, and of course, it's going to repeat it, it's going to keep happening. Each time you eat it, it happens. It's dose dependent. It's dose dependent. So for people that, cannot do it at once, you can't stop cold turkey, then you can wean yourself off it and say, okay, I used to eat a bowl full of meat, now I'm transitioning, maybe I'm taking a few, I'm doing it once a week, maybe 3 times a week, I'm doing it once a week till, if you're able to, or you just make that switch from red meat to white meat, but this is just one of the components that we're talking about. But anyway, the repeated cycles of damage and repair causes epithelial dysplasia, and that's how your precancerous lesions start to form. So the lesions that form before you have cancer, and that's where your screening now becomes important, because when you do like a colonoscopy, we're talking about the colon now, right? So when you do a colonoscopy, I'm sure we know what a colonoscopy is, when you pass a tube through the anus to look into the colon and see if there are any nodules or polyps or anything there that is cancerous. So you can see some of these precancerous cells, cut them up, take them out, look at them under the microscope. And if they are precancerous, you can now intervene at that point. You can just snip it off and then sew it back or whatever, do some adjuvant therapy, whatever. Just do something so that you buy some time for yourself. Okay, and this kind of like an infographic to show what I have just explained, how there's that damage and then how it builds up. Now going straight to the pathogenesis, which I've kind of explained for the side of the red meat. Now we're advocating for fiber and whole grains because we're talking about food as medicine. And when we started, we said fiber and whole grains, plant-based, whole food, plant predominant eating diet. And one thing that whole food has is fiber. And one thing that plants have fiber, no animal has fiber, by the way. Your fiber is only plant-based, okay? So now, fiber adds bulk to the stool. It increases bowel movement and frequency, okay? So it makes it pass very quickly. And this reduces contact time between the intestinal lining and carcinogens from foods, like these heterocyclic amines from meats that we have talked about. So, eating food that are rich in fiber to support that thing, the meat actually helps, but the fiber should be significant. Now think of it like flushing out the toxins faster, okay? So that's number one. That's one function that fiber does. Now fermentation, your short chain fatty acids, and this one is coming from soluble fiber. We have insoluble fiber and we have soluble fiber. So the one that makes the food pass very quickly is your insoluble fiber, the one that the body cannot digest. And you find it in most of our dark green vegetables. A lot of them are insoluble fiber. And so that's why we want you to take a lot of them so that transit time is there. Anything else that you're ingesting that has a chance of damaging the colon, if you take it along with lots of fiber, there's lots of fiber in your diet, then you flush it out very, very quickly and doesn't reduce the contact time. You have time to cause that injury that we're talking about that is happening in the inner lining of the colon. Okay, now fermentation, the short chain fatty acid. So this one happens with soluble fiber. So there are some fibers that the body can actually digest, right? And you can get from beans, from oats, from fruits, and from our okra, So those things, the fiber that are a bit slimy, like our oats, the inside of our okra is soluble fiber, the outer part is insoluble fiber, right? So they are fermented by gut bacteria, and they produce short-chain fatty acids, especially butyrate. Butyrate is a protective molecule. There's propionate and all of that. But here we're talking about butyrate because it's implicated in cancer. That other one is more in the diabetes type 2 remission pathway. Now, it fuels healthy colon cells. That's the colonocytes. That's what this butyrate does. It reduces inflammation, promotes apoptosis, that's self-destruction of precancerous cells. Are you seeing? You have talked about precancerous cells. And we're now saying that ingestion of soluble fiber promotes death. So it makes the precancerous cells to kill themselves, to die by themselves, even without you intervening. Isn't that absolutely amazing? Then it improves gut microbiome, the diversity. Remember, we talked about the type, the diversity of it, and we want them to be diverse. We want there to be more of the good one versus the bad ones and fewer of the ones that will produce toxins. Using fiber, just absolutely amazing. Now, fiber binds to bile acids. I mean, as you're thinking of this, you need to start saying, I want to make sure that everything I eat has some fiber in it. I mean, that's a promise. That's just a decision you need to take for yourself, just for yourself, okay? There's no fiber tablets. At least I don't know of anyone. Maybe Dr. Makinde knows, but I don't know of any fiber tablets. So I know the only way you can get it is by eating predominantly plants, vegetables, and all of that, and not processing them. So you're doing your beans, you're not taking out the back, you're doing your ogi, your pap, your akamu, you're not taking out the chaff, the husk. You're eating the food, the whole, as close to the way it was made by God, or as close to the way that you harvested it as possible. That gives you maximum fiber in your diet, right? So fiber binds to bile acids, especially secondary bile acids, like I said, and that can damage DNA. So it helps to excrete them in the stool instead of letting them linger in the colon. So part of extracting them out. Now, reducing insulin resistance and inflammation. So whole grains, which are generally rich in fiber, magnesium, antioxidants. Remember, we talked about reactive oxygen species. Now, these antioxidants, will go and mop up these reactive oxygen species that are the ones that cause the DNA damage and start the process of cancer formation, right? And also phytochemicals. So they improve insulin sensitivity. They lower blood sugar and insulin, right? And then reduce insulin-like growth factor 1, which otherwise promotes cell proliferation and tumor growth. So it's going these things that are likely to cause cancers, the whole grains and especially the fruits that have all those antioxidants and the phytochemicals will go and mop up all of those things. And of course, talked about how they also cause reduce systemic inflammation, right? So making the gut less cancer prone. So they are creating an environment. Remember, we had said, if we go back to that infographic, we had said that it's going to cause an injury, cause a scratch and all of that. So, but by the time you're eating some of these things, assuming some of those injuries have happened, when you now eat the right food, it helps to now go and mop up all of those things that would, cause it to linger. So it's no longer going to linger there, and it just continues to keep the gut environment healthy, okay? Now, epigenetic and immune effects. So whole grains, they protect the DNA from oxidative damage and they influence gene expression. So there's a whole topic on epigenetics, how you can switch on and switch off your genes based on your lifestyle, your lifestyle and the lifestyle intervention. So even if you have a gene for a certain cancer or you have a gene for diabetes, right? Your lifestyle can determine whether you switch on that gene and manifest it or you switch it off and suppress it. That's essentially what he's saying. So you eat fiber and whole grains, they go to the colon mostly undigested. The gut bacteria will feast on it to produce butyrate. Butyrate feeds good colon cells and kills bad ones. Fiber pushes waste out faster and binds toxins so it can be pushed out. Whole grains balance sugar and inflammation, and altogether the colon stays healthy, DNA protected, and cancer risk goes down. Isn't that absolutely amazing? And these are studies to show how much fiber you should have. They've done different studies in different populations to support what I've said. so many studies. And also, when we now say, okay, we don't want you eating ultra-processed food, things like biscuits, baked food, you've sieved the flour, you're using the flour to make some of those pastries and all of those things. Why are we saying no? How are they implicated in cancer formation? Why is the battle against small chops a thing? I mean, it's made from flour, it's deep fried. We've talked about how cooking at high heat, how it can have an effect in cancer. We've talked about that, and deep frying is high heat. Now, the flour is energy dense and it's ultra processed, right? When you take excessive calories, it leads to weight gain and ultimately leads to obesity. Now, the ultra processed foods are high in sugar, they're high in unhealthy fats, refined carbohydrates, and they are low in fiber because they've been sieved. The chaff has been taken out, the husk has been taken out. They are energy dense but nutrient poor, right? And so they encourage overeating, poor satiety, and weight gain. You're not going to get food. You eat them in short while you're hungry again. Whereas if you eat fiber, something that is really rich in fiber, you stay full for longer. Just like somebody that had swallow and vegetable soup. It's not likely that that person will be hungry for a long time. Even if you just ate a fist size of the swallow. It's more filling than somebody that ate biscuits and then ate ice cream and then ate, puff puff and all of those things. Now, obesity is a recognized risk factor for at least 13 cancers, okay? And so this ultra-processed foods leads you to obesity. So you can see that is on its own is already a risk factor. And because the fat tissue isn't just a storage depot, it acts like a hormone factory. And some of the cancers are hormone dependent, estrogen positive, breast cancer, and some of the other ones. So the hormone plays a significant role in cancer formation, right? And then the leptin, it promotes cell proliferation and reduces adiponectin, which normally is protective. So some of these things drive breast cancer, ovarian cancer, and endometrial cancer. And so there's a lot about chronic inflammation, insulin resistance, and all of that as regards ultra-processed food, because ultra-processed foods, like we're talking about, they trigger insulin, chronic inflammation, they trigger and they will damage the DNA, like we've already said, the same thing that is happening with the red meat. So they are doing the same thing as well, and they're going to cause insulin resistance, right? And that is the same thing as well, and growth signaling. So these are the same things. So that's growth signaling means they are going to make the cancer cells to want to grow faster. Same thing, similar to what the red meat is doing as well. And that is why we are discouraging people from eating it, or at least minimizing it. So the insulin-like growth factor actually stimulates uncontrolled cell growth, and it prevents that self-destruction we talked about. We had said that fiber will trigger that, but this one will make it not to kill itself, and it just continues to proliferate, and we don't want that to happen. Then the ultra-processed foods are often full of additives, preservatives. We know this already. Nitrites and nitrates, emulsifiers, and advanced glycated end products. And they produce reactive oxygen species. I've said that lead to DNA mutations and cancer initiation, the same way that it happens with red meat. The similar pathogenesis too for the gut microbiomes. So in summary, also for the ultra-processed foods, eating lots of junk food makes you gain weight. If you didn't understand everything I said, just understand this part. Eating lots of junk food makes you gain weight. Extra fat cells don't just sit there. They release hormones and chemicals. These chemicals cause inflammation, making your body less sensitive to insulin, and they push your cells to grow faster. We've talked about that proliferation and cell growth. Meanwhile, the additives and sugar in processed foods create stress that can damage DNA. Over time, this unhealthy environment makes it easier for cancers to start and to grow in many parts of the body. And there's a lot of evidence where that is coming up. And so together, all of these things I've talked about set the stage for multiple cancers. So we want you to eat fruits, we want you to eat vegetables, we want you to eat nuts, because they lower the cancer risk okay, because of what they contain, the antioxidants, vitamin C and E, the carotenoids, the flavonoids, the polyphenols. They are filled with this, okay? They are filled with antioxidants that neutralize the reactive oxygen species and prevent oxidative DNA damage. I'm sure we've heard that so much. They contain the phytochemicals that modulate detoxification. Remember, we talked about binding toxins and all of that, and reduce inflammation and induce cancer cell death. So we want the cancer cells to die. And preferably, if they can die on their own, that would be better. And I always like to show this slide from Dr. Ifeoma Moye's mother's funeral, where she served this in place of small chops to say that it is possible, right? Let me tell you something that happened today. You know, when there was that mini revolt, when they said, no, they didn't want lifestyle compliant food. So my HOD called me and said I should remind them that he wants something lifestyle compliant to be served. And so even if the main course isn't, and so I was charged with the responsibility of coming up with something that was healthy for them. So I decided to make fruit cups. I wish I had added the pictures to this slide. And so I decided to make fruit cups. And so I made fruit cups with fruits. And I said, oh, there might be older people or diabetics among us. So let me also make a vegetable cup. So I chopped my fruits. I had watermelon, pineapple, pawpaw, and what was the other fruit now? Okay, yeah, those ones. Apples, yes, apples. I drizzled some lime in the apples. So yes, I had that in one of the fruit cups. Then I had garden eggs chopped. I had cucumbers chopped. I had pawpaw, unripe pawpaw this time around, the one they call carrots. I had that chopped. Then I had apples, right? Drizzled in some lemon as well, chopped and put in to sweeten the vegetable cup. So they had that as and did I say garden eggs and garden eggs? And to my surprise, I just added that and I just felt, well, let it just be so. And I even wanted to put it aside because I felt the fruits would be the heat. And you know that almost everybody that they met, vegetable or fruit cup, vegetable, everybody wanted the vegetable cup. I was surprised. I'm still surprised. They kept saying, oh, they wanted that tanginess of the garden eggs. They wanted the garden eggs. They wanted the cucumbers. They wanted this. And I was like, okay. Well, though this was coming more, yeah, but most of the people, I want to say they started serving the consultants first. So almost all the consultants took the vegetable cups, and the remaining people also took the vegetable. So the vegetable cups essentially finished first before the fruit cups. So our people are learning, even though they don't know that they want it, but they are actually learning. So I'll just wrap up very quickly, showing us pictures, some pictures of things that we can do on our own, right? We've talked about the gut microbiomes. I'm not going to go into this. Yes, there are some supplements that may contain some of the things we need, right? But remember, we get a higher variety from the fruits, the vegetables, and all of that. They have multiple of these things. But if you need a particular supplement, let's say you've done a test and maybe you're deficient in magnesium or something, yes, you might want to just supplement that one for that period of time. Maybe you're deficient. You see a lot of elderly people that are deficient in vitamin D. And maybe because of their environment, you work in an enclosed area, you're wearing long sleeve, you're not able to get the maximum effect. You might want to maybe get that particular supplement for that period of time, right? But the most important thing, but the point is supplements are not substitutes to healthy lifestyle or to whole food, plant predominant eating diet. And you also want people that know what they're doing, right, to be able to offer you, and you to also go back and know more about them before you start dabbling into some of the supplements. So what is our nutrition take home? I think I'll round up here, right? Emphasize beans, peas, lentils, granules, seeds, leafy greens, vegetables, fruits. Choose whole grains like our fada rice, our brown rice, our acha, our sorghum, millet, whole wheat. Limit red meat, avoid processed meat like our suya, processed sausages, bacon. Reduce refined carbs, sugary drinks, deep fried fast foods. Encourage safe food storage to reduce aflatoxins. So you want to dry it properly, use airtight storage so it doesn't get moldy or damp. Sorting moldy grains, and always look at your grains before you ingest them. then prefer boiling or stewing over charring. For cachexia, dietitian referral. So if the patient is really, really cachexic, then energy and protein dense whole foods are what we recommend for the cachexic person. And then consider omega-3 sources like fish and other things, right? Then supplements only for deficiencies, like I have explained. Avoid high dose antioxidants during chemotherapy unless it is implicated. So I'll just I think I should end here so that people who can ask questions. There's a lot more where that came from, but let's end here because of time. Thank you very much for your time.
Wow. That was an amazing presentation. Please let's show some gratitude for Dr. Ijeoma Dozie for giving us that scientific packed discussion about nutrition, about our food, how it impacts the gut, how it impacts our wellness as a whole. And I'm sure that summary just gives the essential things, even if you didn't get any of the jargon. But I think Dr. Dozie did a very good job in managing people who are not medical practitioners, as well as addressing clinicians, by ensuring that she still give us came down to earth with some of the things that she said. Thank you so much. This was very interesting, even for me. And I'm sure for many of us here. So I'm sure we heard a lot of key words. One of the main key things that she said at the beginning was the acronym DREAMS. And I'm sure everyone should remember that from now henceforth, the acronyms for the pillars of lifestyle medicine. And then, the words that kept coming up, when talking about the healthy foods, fiber, whole grains. In fact, at our Society of Lifestyle Medicine conference just a few weeks ago, the nutritionist that shared some thoughts. She said, if you are looking at the food and you can't see the mother, you can't see the father, then that is not whole food. But when you can see where the food came from, you see, oh, this is rice, this is beans, this is potato, this is yam. You can see where it came from. But there are some foods, you see them, you'll be wondering, okay, Indomie now, who is the father, who is the mother? Small chops, who is the mother, who is the father? So it's heartwarming to know that our own traditional meals, the things that grew from the ground, that we can take from our farm to our table, they're right there. They're right there. They're available. Beans, okra, garden egg, all those fruits and vegetables, they're right there. So I'm going to stop here and say thank you once again to Dr. Dozie, and thanks for everyone who has joined the call tonight. We have several people on the call, and I'm going to be recognizing some people by time we are finishing our discussion. Let me read some of the comments in the chat box. Just a lot of gratitude here. Excellent, Ma. Kudos, Ma. Another nice one, Dr. Dozie. Well done. Excellent presentation, Ma. Great one, Chief. Beautiful presentation, Dr. Dozie. This is very awesome. Very good one, Dr. Dozie. What a wonderful presentation. Kudos, Ma. You have added great knowledge to the existing body of knowledge. Yes.
Thanks so much.
And so, do we have any questions for Dr. Dozie tonight? Any questions, any comments? As we drop our questions in the chat box, I realized that I have some of my elders in the house. This is amazing. I can see Dr. Charles Kujo in the house. Thank you for being here, sir. I can see Dr. Ifeoma Fagbemi. I can see Dr. Ifeoma Moye. Wow. Dr. Ifeoma Moye is the president of the World Lifestyle Medicine Organization. And she's also the founding president of the Society of Lifestyle Medicine of Nigeria. She was one that handed over the reins to me. We're so delighted to have you here, Ma. Thank you for making it. I know you're traveling and yet you are able to join. Thank you so much. I can see some of my very senior professors in the house and colleagues and friends, aunties, uncles. Even my dad is here, Dr. Peter Ilemile. Thank you, Dad. All right. So I'll leave other greetings to the end. Do we have any comments? Thank you, Dr. Aladewolu, for your comments. Thank you, Doctor, for organizing this. So thank you for your beautiful presentation. A question, please, what is your take on intravenous water with soluble vitamins for wellness? That's an interesting question. All right, so Dr. Dozie, I'm sure you can see that question.
No. Where is it? In the Q&A box?
Okay.
You say
Okay.
intravenous water?
Yes. What is the role? What is your take on intravenous water? That's IV fluid. Or, IV intravenous water
Yes.
soluble vitamins. Okay, not IV fluid, I guess. Maybe vitamins that you can dissolve into water and drink. I know we do that with vitamin C and some other vitamins. I guess that's what she means. Or Dr. Ajelabi, do you want to unmute and maybe throw some more light on your question? I think there's another hand
Yes.
raised.
Thank
Okay.
you so much. Good evening, Ma. Thank you very much, Dr. Dozie, for your presentation. My question is about these intravenous water-soluble vitamins. So I don't want to generalize. I want to talk about water-soluble vitamins. So I'm talking vitamin B and C. In recent times, there's been an increase in the marketing of intravenous vitamins for wellness, such that it's said that you can get a shot, or just the same way people take supplements every day, right? And some people are saying we can get ours IV as a form of wellness. So what's your take on it?
Hello? Hello?
Okay.
What's
Please,
happening?
Person should mute himself.
I think someone's mic is on. Please, let's mute, please. If we're not speaking, let's mute, please.
You're the host, you can mute.
Okay. All right. I've done that.
Okay.
Okay. Did you get that question?
Yes, I think I got what she's trying to say, because in recent times we're promoting a lot of high dose vitamins for some of people like following COVID especially, So one thing we know currently, the evidence is still evolving on that, okay? Whether they are truly beneficial or not. That's number one. That is one thing that we know. Now, another thing that we know is that they are water-soluble vitamins. So what that means is, in most cases, they will be excreted, right? If you have excess, the B vitamins and the C vitamins, you don't have all these vitaminosis, vitaminosis A, vitaminosis E, you know what I mean? Because those ones are the oil based vitamins. So those ones, you can actually have toxicity with those ones. But B and C, usually there's no toxicity because they are water soluble and you can excrete them. But that's not a free pass to now say, go to town and just take them recklessly, right? So a lot of the times, you don't need the dose at that level. Like maybe you're saying 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C, which we commonly see we are seeing becoming a thing that people are just, pumping themselves with a lot of vitamin C to 1,000 milligrams. Don't forget that when you have a mixture of the fruits and vegetables that we advocate for here, a lot of them are very rich in vitamin C. Your oranges, your pineapples, all of that, those things, they have a lot of vitamin C. So you would only need those high dose supplements if you're not eating the way we are recommending that you eat. As long as you are eating a mixture of, fruits, there are fruits in your diet, there are vegetables in your diet, you're eating a rainbow every day, I would have showed you a plate, my healthy plate, which is a recommendation that says you should do 50% of what you eat should have vegetables. Just allow me to do that very quickly, please, because I don't want us to live without that. What I'm trying to say is, if you eat the way you're supposed to eat, the way we have recommended that you eat, you would not necessarily need the high dose vitamins. But that said, even if you eat the high dose vitamins, you shouldn't. Even if you ingest them, the water soluble ones, or even the oral ones that you take, it should be indicated. It shouldn't be something that you just take routinely. So there must be an indication for it, maybe a deficiency indication or a supportive or an adjunct indication for it. That's what should necessitate the ingestion of some of those vitamins.
Thanks for that, Dr. Dozie. I think in addition to that, there's a question here that says, what important part can food supplements take in this area of cancer prevention? So this seems to be something, maybe people are thinking that swallowing a particular type of vitamin will prevent you or reduce your risk of cancer. I think those are the ideas that some of us have, and that's why these questions are coming up. So is there any food supplement that we can take on a continuous basis that will reduce our risk of cancer?
Okay, can you see my screen first of all? I just want to be sure that my screen can be seen.
Yes,
I'm sharing my screen. Okay, fine. Yes. So that's just like a pictorial depiction of what we're saying. Half of what you're eating should have vegetables, and there are different types of that. So I will now, while we're doing that, I can now quickly answer the question. I'm just going through some food slides to show that it's actually doable, right? And so on and so forth. So, okay, so let's now go back very quickly.
Can you scroll again? Now, can you go backwards again? Okay.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So
okay,
now let
maybe
me
a bit
answer
more
the question.
slowly, yes.
Oh, no, okay. I wanted to just answer the question while we're just absorbing the plate, okay? So there are some supplements, okay, that have glutathione, that have omega-3 fatty acids, that have vitamin D, some supplements that are anti-inflammatory, okay? Because inflammation across board would cause cancer, is implicated in cancer, is implicated in type 2 diabetes and many other disease conditions. So inflammation happening in the brain, happening in the eyes, happening in the kidneys and all of those things, right? So they've been implicated in different disease conditions. So yes, so certain supplements that are evidence-based, right? Some of them do not do what they say they do, and some of them actually do what they say they do. So the first step is to reduce inflammation. So omega-3 fatty acids, supplements that are rich in this and that are enhanced with turmeric. So there's this turmeric, okay? That's like the active ingredient. And so they use it to enhance some of those properties. So turmeric, it's a very potent anti-inflammatory food. And then agents that are enhanced, like if you take omega-3 fatty acid now as a supplement, sorry, this lecture is not on supplements, or somebody asked the question, which is why I'm answering it. So if you take an omega-3 fatty acid, for instance, that has some turmeric in it, then that would enhance that, potentiate the anti-inflammatory property. Now, some of them are like maybe 400 international units or thereabouts. The toxic level of it is about 10,000 international units. So as long as you're not hitting that toxic level, you're not likely to have a side effect. But if you're somebody that just wants to do the direct thing, then try and incorporate turmeric in almost everything you take. That's a very potent anti-inflammatory. So you can do turmeric milk. The Indians do it. That's why their food is always yellow. Almost everything they eat has turmeric in it, because they know how they appreciate the anti-inflammatory power of turmeric. So that's, you can look out for that in terms of your supplements. I hope that answered the supplement question.
Yes, thank you so much. It does. There's some other questions here, but before I take those questions, Dr. Ozzy's hand has been raised for a while. Do you want to unmute, Dr. Ozzy, and ask your question?
Okay. Good evening. Good evening, Ma. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, Dr. Duze, for the wonderful presentation and reminder on the lifestyle practices. I just have some questions and probably comments, and just to remind us on some of the practices. But first of all, I want to find out if intake of excessive nuts has any effect. Just to buttress further, like maybe someone consuming a bottle of peanut or groundnut in 2 days, or let's say 24 hours. What's your opinion on that? Since we mentioned that nuts are good, but does it mean that, is there an issue with
Put it down on them? Yeah, I can take that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a very easy question. Thank you so much for asking the question. There's so much to say on this topic, but because of time, I just wanted to go into the pathogenesis so that we would really understand what I'm saying, especially for the clinicians, so that they will know that this is science. It's not just a fad. It is science, pure science. So regarding your nuts, yes, nuts are good, all of them. Our cashew nuts, our olives, our walnuts, our groundnuts, Igbo, our ukwa, the roasted ukwa, that's breadfruit nuts. That is absolutely amazing. I've done some research on ukwa, and it has very healthy monounsaturated fats, the unsaturated fatty acids compared to groundnuts, so it's healthier than that. And then they are rich in protein, they're rich in the healthy cholesterol, and they're rich in fiber. So they're complete foods. But guess what? You cannot overeat. In lifestyle medicine, the quantity, the portion you eat is very, very important. It's as important as what you are eating. And I had showed that slide earlier, one of the slides I scrolled through that showed portion sizes. So the portion size for your nuts is a handful. You can see my hand in my deck. That's it. 1 or 2 handfuls maximum in a day. I tell people that in my house, my husband and I finish a bottle of groundnuts every week. That's 1 bottle unpeeled, roasted. We do in a week. 2 of us, or in fact, the whole family, if I want to put it like that, because everybody knows that. So it's every Saturday we get top up. So it's just this handful. And sometimes by that Saturday, Sunday, the old one is still remaining. So we know that that's discipline. But some people will finish it. I gave a talk in CWO, that's Catholic Women Organization. And when I told them handful, they say, dog, it's not possible. How can you tell us? When we finish 1 bottle in a day or 2, as Dr. Ozzy has said. So please, it's a handful. Once you're doing this with your nuts, you're good.
Okay, thank you very much. The other question is on supplements. I think a lot have been said about it. Then what I want to also find out, some of us, let me use myself as an example. I don't take breakfast. Not as in, it just happens like that, and it's been like that for a while. My first meal is usually from 1 p.m. So is there any, what's your take on it? Just like an opinion.
What time is your last, what time is your last meal for the day?
Usually
your first meal is around
maybe
12.
Yes, last meal usually around 8, 9 p.m.
8, 9 p.m. What time do you go to bed?
Around 11, 12 or thereabouts.
Okay, fine. So usually we say bedtime should be 2 to 3 hours from your last meal. So you're doing that. You're doing 2 to 3 hours from your last meal, okay? So you're doing without knowing, maybe, I don't know if it's intentional or not, but that's a form of intermittent fasting that you're doing. So you're eating between 12 and 9. So you have a 9-hour eating window, and the rest of the time you're fasting. I hope you're not a midnight snacker, right? That 9 to 12, you don't go and start nibbling something in the fridge. You're not doing that, right?
No, not.
Okay,
No.
great. So as long as you're not doing that, then that's fine. So you have that free window that allows you to digest. So you have that. So that's fine. That's okay. You just shifted your eating time a little bit, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the caveat is this: that period between morning when you wake up and 12 when you have your first meal, please drink lots of water. Aim to take up to maybe 2 liters of water minimum or more before you have that meal. So that will dilute the acid in your system. It will reduce any triggers if you have dyspepsia, if you have PUD and all of that. It will still make you feel, give your body the sense, your tummy the sense of fullness. So it's going to trigger your brain. It's the sensors, the receptors that are working and telling you that you have that sense of fullness. So you're not going to feel hungry. And when it's now time for you to eat, you won't be tempted to overeat. So I think that's just an addition to that. But if that's what you're comfortable with, just add the water to the fasting period and you're good.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. So it's like you're intermittently fasting in a healthy way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just to buttress that, so whatever you're eating during that window, should be healthy, should be whole food, plant-based, like we've been saying. All right. So the other question here is, Ma, what's your take? I would like to ask this question about the sweetness in fruits. Are they beneficial to the health? That's one. The sweetness in fruits. And then the second one is, what's your take on the GMO foods, especially regarding their nutritional value and the controversies surrounding them? As well as, so GMO foods, GMO fruits. So that's the second question.
Okay. The sweetness in fruits. So it actually depends on what is sweetening. Most of them are fructose anyway, because they are from fruits. Okay. It depends on how much fiber is accompanying that food and the glycemic index of that food. Let me give an example of what I'm trying to say. The sweetness in food is not harmful. It's not. But it depends. Now, portion control comes in, glycemic index comes in, glycemic load also comes in, especially if you're diabetic. If you're not diabetic, there's nothing wrong with something sweet, especially if you have a sweet tooth, right? So the fruits will help you to bring some sweetness into your life. There's nothing wrong with some sweetness in the life. Do you understand?
Yes.
So the fruits are good for that. Look at apple, for instance. Apple is sweet, but the glycemic index is low, and a lot of research has showed that it's very good for diabetics. So despite the sweetness, whereas we know that pineapple is sweet, but it causes spikes in diabetics when they take it, right? And we don't want that variability happening in them. Okay, so there's going to cause that immediate spike. The pineapple will cause that, a watermelon will cause that, apple will not cause that, and all of them are sweet. So, but all of them have something in common, which is that they are very rich in fiber, especially the pineapple and the apple, So as long as the sweet you're taking is accompanied by fiber, remember what we said when we were talking about the pathogenesis of cancer. We said the fiber in it helps to flush it down very quickly, and it also gives the gut microbiome something to feed on. So sweetness in fruits, in fact, even honey. I know we say plant predominant eating patterns. If you're able to get original honey, it's just that chances of getting that are very slim. But I get it from the monastery, because I believe that the monks will not rip me off, because they are just monks. They don't come out. They just stay there and pray from morning till night, and they breed their honeys in peace. Their honeybees in peace. So that's where I buy my honey. If the monks don't have honey, I don't take honey. And recommendation is 1 teaspoon. If you read about the benefits of honey, you'll be amazed. And it is sweet, but you don't take too much of it. It's still portion control. Do you understand? And it is anti-inflammatory as well, but then it is sweet. So sweetness is not as bad as we think it is, but then it has to be taken with caution and with the necessary caveats associated with it, depending on the food we're taking. Now, regarding this GMO thing, I'm no expert in GMO and I will not claim to be one. But one thing I know is that usually when they are regenerating these things or when they are genetically engineering it, so it depends on what they are genetically engineering. It's not everything that is altered in it. So the fibrous content most times is still there. The sweet content, the taste, everything, all those things that you expect to have, most of them are usually still there. Okay, the nutritional, so some of them might even be more nutritious than the natural one, depending on what specific thing they were engineering in it. You know, it's genetically engineered, right? And most of the companies that have these GMOs are actually after profit and all of that. So they're engineering, oh, we don't want you to use, we don't want the seed to be usable. We don't want the soil to be able to take another seed other than the one that we genetically engineered. We want people to be dependent on the food that our seed is given, and which is why the genetically altered wheat, and wheat now causes all those spikes that it causes and all of those things. But generally, the core elements of the food are generally the same. So that's the much I know about it, but I plan to do more study on it.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Dozie. The last question, I believe, because we need to wrap up, it's already 9:20. It says, I mix nuts with my fruit in the morning. What do you have to say about this? Ground nuts, is it sea nuts? Maybe ground nuts, almonds. Okay, cashew nuts. Okay, yeah, and dried ginger.
Okay, I mix nuts with my fruits in the morning. Yes, you can mix nuts with your fruits. That's very good. That's an energy dense a nutrient dense food that you're taking, and that's good. There's nothing wrong with it as long as you're taking it within the portion. Remember what we said, handful. So your nuts are a handful. So if it's mixed nuts, it has your almonds, your cashew nuts, your groundnuts, whatever nuts, just your handful. Mix it into your fruits. It gives the fruits the crunch. You can also pour that into, in fact, when I'm taking my oats, remember we said oats is very rich in soluble fiber. When I'm taking my oats in the morning too, sometimes I put a handful of nuts into it. So it gives it that crunch and it just adds a different, vibe to the whole thing. So yes, you can do that. And it also adds protein. Your fruits are just, they are fruits. So by the time you're adding the nuts to it, it makes it also better balanced because you're adding protein, you're adding healthy oils, and some of them have a little bit of carbs. So you're adding all of that and making it more balanced. So yes, that's a good thing to add once it's the right portion.
Wow. She's asking, is it healthy to add yogurt?
Yeah, so Greek yogurt, if it's Greek yogurt is good. Yogurt is not bad. Why? Because it is rich in probiotics, right? And so that is very good, especially for the gut microbiomes that we've been talking about here. Okay, so yogurts are good, right? Yeah, so it's the sweetening that becomes a bit of a challenge for you. So you want to use healthy sweeteners like your dates and all of that. Your original honey, if you can vouch for it. You cannot vouch for 95% of the honeys in the market. So don't say that I told you to go and start taking honey. I didn't do that. If you don't have a monastery to get honey from, I don't trust any honey apart from the one from the moon. Just putting it out there. So yes, yogurt is healthy, especially the unsweetened one and the Greek yogurt. They are very rich in probiotics. And we have some of our local foods that are also fermented. There's a whole lecture of fermented foods, and different tribes have their own fermented foods. Like the Northerners, I think they have their kunu, and there are all those things. The Westerners have, the Igbos have their own, and all. Some of them don't have as much as the pre and probiotics like we want them to have, because heat denatures the organism, that. And so by the time we are warming it and heating it, we've denatured the bulk of it. But yogurt has a good chunk of what is good for you. But then don't go and take a full bowl of yogurt. It's still portion control every single time.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Jose. This has been an amazing discussion, very insightful, and a lot of takeaway messages for us. Please fear not. I know some of us had problems with our network and kept, going in and out. The webinar has been recorded, and as we always do, we'll upload it to our LCI YouTube channel where you can go back and watch, and you can also share with important or significant other people who need to make a change. You need to drop the small chops and go for the healthy swaps, and that's where your fiber and whole grain, play a very important role. I remember that during our conference, we had these packs, brown, very neat pack. You look at it and think, okay, is this small chops? But when we opened it up, we had granuts in there. We had an apple. Some had cucumber. We had garden
Garden
egg.
eggs.
It was amazing. Everybody
It was
really
amazing.
enjoyed it. Yes. So, and we got all the nutrients right there, fighting all the oxidative stress and getting rid of the reactive species of oxygen.
Yes, so
There's a lot we can do for ourselves. And, I just wanted to also make a comment about supplements. So studies have shown now that people that take calcium supplements for long periods, it causes some kind of plaque, to be deposited on the walls of the coronary arteries, and that increases their risk of heart disease. So you can imagine this thing that we are talking about, calcium, beautiful calcium or calcium supplement. We know that calcium plays a very important role, but it shouldn't just be taken indefinitely. If it is vitamin D, which helps to the body to absorb calcium naturally, that's even better, because you can't get vitamin D, from food per se. You get it from sunlight. So, but all these fads, about people wanting to swallow one thing or the other, please, let's move from swallowing pills to changing our behavior. Making the right choices, goes a long way, to help us to reduce our risk of these diseases. We really want to say a very big thank you once again to Dr. Duzie and to everyone who has joined us tonight. I want to thank my twin sister and Professor Shion Kolade for hosting us. That they are the Enterprise Republic. Thank you for hosting us tonight. Thanks once again to our elders. I mentioned some of our elders in the house, some of my mentors, senior friends. But what we normally do is that we recognize everyone by name as we wrap up. So starting from the top,